Germany, a beacon of economic strength, a symbol of order, efficiency, and prosperity. A nation rebuilt from the ashes of war, stronger, more united. But even in the bright light of success, shadows lurk. Beneath the surface of this modern powerhouse, a darker force stirs. Organized crime, once a whisper, now grows bolder, its tendrils reaching deep into the fabric of society. This is the story of the hunters and the hunted, of the crimes that shook a nation, and the fight to reclaim Germany's streets. Germany, a land of contradictions. Known for its strict laws and disciplined society, it also faces the harsh reality of organized crime. From the bustling streets of Berlin to the quiet suburbs of Hamburg, the underworld operates in the shadows, a constant threat to the nation's stability and security. This is not a tale of petty theft or random violence. This is the story of powerful criminal organizations, their roots spreading like poison, their influence reaching into the very heart of German society. This is the story of the men and women who dedicate their lives to fighting this insidious enemy, the detectives working tirelessly to gather evidence, the prosecutors building airtight cases, and the officers risking their lives on the front lines. The stakes are high, the danger very real. This is the story of Germany's most notorious crime gangs exposed. Germany's economic miracle, a testament to its resilience, became a magnet for criminal enterprises seeking to exploit its newfound wealth. The fall of the Berlin Wall, a symbol of hope and unity, also opened up new avenues for illicit trade and trafficking. The country's strategic location in the heart of Europe made it a prime hub for smuggling routes and criminal networks. The influx of immigrants and refugees, while enriching the cultural fabric of the nation, also presented opportunities for exploitation. Criminal organizations preyed on the vulnerable, offering false promises of a better life, only to trap them in a cycle of crime and despair. The very forces that propelled Germany's resurgence inadvertently created fertile ground for organized crime to flourish. The authorities, initially caught off guard by this new breed of criminal, struggled to keep pace. Traditional law enforcement methods proved inadequate against sophisticated criminal networks that operated across borders and exploited legal loopholes. The justice system, accustomed to dealing with individual offenders, faced the daunting task of dismantling complex criminal organizations with vast resources and influence. The battle lines were drawn, the stage set for a clash between order and chaos, between the rule of law and the law of the jungle. The rise of organized crime in Germany came at a steep price. The social fabric of the nation, so carefully woven together after the devastation of war, began to fray. Communities once characterized by trust and solidarity now lived in the shadow of fear and suspicion. The rule of law, a cornerstone of German society, was challenged by the brazenness and brutality of criminal gangs. The economic costs were equally staggering. Billions of euros were siphoned out of legitimate businesses and into the coffers of criminal organizations. Money laundering schemes corrupted financial institutions, while extortion and racketeering stifled economic growth. The promise of prosperity, so tantalizingly close, seemed to slip further out of reach for many. The human cost, however, cut the deepest. Victims of human trafficking, forced into prostitution or slave labor, endured unimaginable suffering. Drug addiction, fueled by the easy availability of narcotics, tore families apart and claimed the lives of countless young people. The very soul of Germany, its compassion and humanity, seemed under assault. This is the story of the fight to reclaim Germany's soul, to restore order, and to bring justice to the victims. The roar of engines, a thunderous symphony of defiance. Leather and chrome gleam under the streetlights. These are the Hell's Angels, a brotherhood forged in rebellion, their reputation preceding them like a storm cloud. Born on the open roads of America, their chapters have spread across the globe, their insignia a symbol of power and intimidation. In Germany, they found fertile ground, a society grappling with reunification, ripe for exploitation. Their arrival was not a whisper, but a roar. Turf wars erupted, rival gangs clashing in bloody battles for control of the underworld. Drug trafficking, extortion, prostitution. The Angels dipped their hands into every facet of organized crime, their ruthlessness unmatched. They operated with impunity, their loyalty to the Brotherhood absolute, their code of silence impenetrable. One incident, etched in the annals of German crime, revealed the true extent of their brutality. a rival gang member found beaten and shot, his body dumped on the outskirts of Hamburg. The message was clear: this is our territory. The Angels, it seemed, were untouchable, their reign of terror unchallenged. But their brazenness would prove to be their undoing. The authorities, initially overwhelmed, began to fight back, infiltrating their ranks, gathering evidence, building a case that would shake the very foundation of the Hells Angels in Germany. Silent and deadly, like an octopus extending its tentacles, the Ndrangheta mafia, from the sun-drenched hills of Calabria, Italy, established a stranglehold on Germany's underworld. They moved with stealth, their presence barely noticeable, their power absolute. They were masters of discretion, their crimes shrouded in secrecy, their victims often too terrified to speak. Unlike the flashy violence of the Hells Angels, the Ndrangheta operated in the shadows, their power stemming from their intricate network of family ties and ruthless efficiency. They infiltrated legitimate businesses, using them as fronts for money laundering and smuggling operations. They controlled supply chains, dictating terms, eliminating competition with cold-blooded efficiency. One case, however, pierced the veil of secrecy. A seemingly ordinary pizza parlor, nestled in a quiet German suburb, became the focal point of a massive police investigation. What appeared to be a harmless family restaurant was, in reality, a hub for drug trafficking and money laundering on a massive scale. The arrest of the seemingly respectable owner, a man known for his generosity and community involvement, sent shockwaves through Germany. The Ndrangheta, it became clear, had infiltrated the very heart of German society, operating under the radar, their grip on the nation's economy tightening with each passing day. As the Iron Curtain fell, a new breed of criminal emerged from the ruins of the Soviet Union. The Russian mafia, hardened by years of operating in a brutal and unforgiving environment, saw an opportunity in the newly unified Germany. They brought with them a ruthlessness and a disregard for human life that shocked even seasoned investigators. They were quick to capitalize on the chaos of reunification, exploiting the porous borders, the influx of refugees, and the lack of experience in dealing with this new form of organized crime. They specialized in human trafficking, smuggling desperate souls from the former Soviet republics into Germany with promises of a better life, only to trap them in a nightmare of exploitation and abuse. Their brutality knew no bounds. Extortion rackets targeting Russian immigrants and business owners became commonplace. Those who refused to pay were often met with swift and brutal retribution. Contract killings, once a rarity in Germany, became another grim statistic. The Russian mafia's reign of terror, however, would not go unchecked. German law enforcement, realizing the magnitude of the threat, began to dedicate more resources and manpower to combating these ruthless criminals. International cooperation became essential in tracking down these criminals who operated across borders, their tentacles reaching deep into the heart of Europe. The Hells Angels' arrival in Germany wasn't a sudden invasion, but rather a calculated infiltration. The first chapters, often formed by ex-servicemen seeking brotherhood and purpose in a changing world, sprung up near American military bases after World War II. Initially dismissed as harmless motorcycle enthusiasts, their true nature soon became apparent. The allure of easy money, coupled with a disdain for authority, drew a new breed of recruit, men seeking power and dominance in the burgeoning underworld. Exploiting Germany's post-war economic boom, the Angels established a foothold in the trucking and logistics industries. They used their control over transportation routes to facilitate the movement of contraband, drugs, weapons, and stolen goods. Their influence grew, reaching into construction, security firms, even nightclubs, their intimidating presence a constant reminder of who held the real power. Their strict hierarchy and code of silence made them a formidable force, difficult to infiltrate and even harder to prosecute. Witnesses, often too afraid to testify, would clam up, their silence protecting the Angels' reign of terror. The police, struggling to keep pace with their increasingly sophisticated operations, found themselves always a step behind. The Angels' expansion wasn't without its internal strife. Brutal turf wars with rival gangs like the Bandidos erupted across the country, leaving a trail of bloodshed and fear in their wake. These violent clashes, often fought with shocking brutality in broad daylight, served as a stark reminder of the dark underbelly of Germany's economic miracle. Section 2. Seeds of the Ndrangheta. The Ndrangheta, unlike the Hells Angels' ostentatious displays of power, embedded themselves in German society with the insidious stealth of a virus. Their arrival coincided with the influx of Italian guest workers in the 1950s and 60s. What began as small-time operations, catering to the needs of their compatriots, soon blossomed into a sprawling criminal enterprise. They established a network of seemingly legitimate businesses, restaurants, construction companies, import-export firms, all serving as fronts for their illicit activities. Their family-based structure, built on blood ties and unwavering loyalty, made them incredibly difficult to penetrate. Their code of silence, known as omerta, ensured that betrayal was met with swift and brutal retribution. The Ndrangheta's true strength lay in their mastery of logistics. They recognized the strategic importance of Germany's central location within Europe, transforming the country into a hub for drug trafficking, arms smuggling, and human trafficking. Their network, like an invisible web, stretched across the continent, their influence reaching far beyond their seemingly humble origins. Their grip on the German underworld tightened with each passing year. They infiltrated labor unions, influencing construction projects, securing lucrative contracts. They corrupted politicians and law enforcement officials, ensuring their activities remained hidden from scrutiny. Their success, built on a foundation of fear and corruption, seemed unstoppable. Section 3. The Iron Grip tightens. The collapse of the Soviet Union in 1991 unleashed a wave of change across Eastern Europe. While many saw hope for a brighter future, the void left by the fallen regime was quickly filled by opportunistic criminal organizations, most notably the Russian mafia, or Vori Viv Zakon. Germany, with its newfound prosperity and open borders, became a prime target for these battle-hardened criminals. The initial wave consisted of former KGB agents, soldiers from disbanded military units, and hardened criminals released from Soviet prisons. They brought with them a ruthlessness and a disregard for the rule of law that shocked even seasoned German detectives. Extortion, racketeering, and contract killings became commonplace in cities with large Russian-speaking populations. The Russian mafia's ruthlessness wasn't their only weapon. They exploited Germany's liberal immigration policies, bringing in young women from impoverished former Soviet republics under false pretenses, only to force them into prostitution. They trafficked weapons and nuclear materials, capitalizing on the chaos and corruption that plagued the former Soviet bloc. Their deep-seated distrust of authority and their complex network of loyalists made them incredibly difficult to infiltrate. They operated in tight-knit cells, often communicating through coded messages and intermediaries, leaving little trace of their criminal activities. The German authorities, faced with this new and terrifying breed of criminal, found themselves ill-equipped to handle the situation. Traditional investigative methods proved ineffective against an enemy that operated in the shadows, bound by a code of silence and fueled by a potent mix of greed and desperation. Section 1. The Poisoned Pipeline. The German Autobahn, a marvel of engineering designed to connect the nation, became a conduit for the Hells Angels' most lucrative enterprise: drug trafficking, cocaine from South America, heroin from Afghanistan, ecstasy manufactured in clandestine labs across the Dutch border. The Angels controlled the flow of narcotics, their network of couriers and safe houses stretching across the country like a spiderweb. They operated with ruthless efficiency, bribing officials, threatening witnesses, and eliminating rivals with cold-blooded precision. Their control over biker bars and nightclubs provided a ready market for their illicit goods, their influence seeping into the fabric of German society. Addiction rates soared, particularly among young people, fueling a cycle of despair and crime that overwhelmed law enforcement. The Angels' grip on the drug trade wasn't without its challenges. Rival gangs, sensing the immense profits to be made, attempted to muscle in on their territory. Bloody turf wars erupted, turning once peaceful towns into battlegrounds. The violence, often spilling over into public spaces, shocked a nation accustomed to order and stability. The German authorities, realizing the extent of the problem, launched a series of high-profile raids, targeting the Angels' strongholds and seizing large quantities of drugs and weapons. These operations, while successful in disrupting the Angels' operations, often resulted in lengthy and costly legal battles, with witnesses too terrified to testify and evidence often circumstantial. Section 2. Flesh and Blood Trade. The Ndrangheta, masters of exploitation, recognized the potential for immense profits in the shadows of Germany's booming economy. They preyed on the vulnerable, the desperate, the forgotten. Young women, lured from Eastern Europe with promises of a better life, found themselves trapped in a nightmare of sexual slavery, their passports confiscated, their lives controlled by ruthless pimps. They operated brothels disguised as massage parlors, escort services, even private apartments, their tentacles reaching into the heart of respectable society. Clients, often unaware of the true nature of these establishments, fueled the Ndrangheta's coffers, their money lining the pockets of criminals who traded in human misery. The Ndrangheta's control over human trafficking extended beyond prostitution. They exploited illegal immigrants, forcing them into slave labor in restaurants, construction sites, and agricultural businesses. These victims, often too afraid to contact the authorities, endured horrific working conditions, their wages withheld, their movements restricted, their lives reduced to mere commodities. The German authorities, faced with the challenge of combating this hidden crime, found themselves hampered by a lack of resources and a reluctance among victims to come forward. Language barriers, cultural differences, and the constant threat of retaliation made it incredibly difficult to build trust and gather evidence. Section 3. The Shadow Economy. The Russian mafia, masters of intimidation, carved their own niche in Germany's underworld. They established protection rackets targeting Russian-speaking businesses and individuals, demanding a cut of their earnings in exchange for protection from non-existent threats. Those who refused to comply faced swift and brutal retribution. They specialized in money laundering, using a complex network of shell companies, offshore accounts, and corrupt officials to clean their ill-gotten gains. They invested in real estate, restaurants, and nightclubs, legitimizing their criminal enterprise and extending their influence into the heart of German society. Their control over the black market extended to smuggling. They trafficked in stolen goods, from luxury cars to cigarettes, exploiting Germany's central location and porous borders. They forged documents, passports, and visas, enabling illegal immigrants to enter the country undetected and fueling a thriving underground economy. The German authorities, faced with this sophisticated and well-connected criminal organization, found themselves playing a constant game of catch-up. The Russian mafia's use of violence, intimidation, and corruption, coupled with their ability to operate across borders, made them a formidable adversary. Section 1. Operation Hydra. The Hells Angels, once seemingly untouchable, became the target of a massive crackdown by German law enforcement. Operation Hydra, so named for the mythical beast's many heads, aimed to dismantle the gang's vast network, striking at its leadership, its finances, and its grip on the drug trade. Years of painstaking intelligence gathering, undercover work, and international cooperation culminated in a series of coordinated raids that sent shockwaves through the underworld. Hundreds of officers, armed with search warrants and arrest warrants, stormed Hells Angels strongholds across the country. Clubhouses were raided, businesses shut down, and assets seized. The sheer scale of the operation, involving thousands of law enforcement personnel, demonstrated Germany's resolve to dismantle the gang's infrastructure. The raids yielded a treasure trove of evidence, weapons caches, drug stashes, and financial records detailing the gang's illicit activities. High-ranking members, including chapter presidents and national leaders, were arrested and charged with a litany of offenses, from drug trafficking and extortion to money laundering and murder. Operation Hydra marked a turning point in Germany's fight against organized crime. It sent a clear message that no organization, no matter how powerful or well-connected, was above the law. The operation, while not eradicating the Hells Angels entirely, significantly weakened their grip on the country, disrupting their operations and dismantling their network of influence. The Ndrangheta, with its deep roots and shadowy operations, presented a unique challenge for German law enforcement. Combating this secretive organization required a different approach, one that focused on infiltrating its tight-knit structure, exposing its financial dealings, and dismantling its network of legitimate businesses used as fronts for criminal activity. Undercover agents, Skilled in the art of deception and fluent in the dialects of the Ndrangheta's Calabrian heartland, spent years infiltrating the organization, gaining the trust of its members and gathering evidence of their illicit activities. Wiretaps, surveillance, and informants provided a glimpse into the organization's inner workings, revealing its hierarchy, its methods, and its global reach. Financial investigators working tirelessly to follow the money trail uncovered a complex web of shell companies, offshore accounts, and real estate holdings used by the Ndrangheta to launder its illicit profits. Seizures of assets, including luxury villas, businesses, and bank accounts, dealt a significant blow to the organization's financial infrastructure. International cooperation proved crucial in dismantling the Ndrangheta's network. Joint operations with Italian, Spanish, and Dutch authorities led to the arrest of high-ranking members, disrupting drug trafficking routes, and dismantling human trafficking rings. The message was clear: the walls were closing in on the Ndrangheta, its days of operating with impunity numbered. The Russian mafia, with its culture of secrecy, its ruthlessness, and its connections to corrupt officials, presented a formidable challenge for German law enforcement. Combating this invisible enemy required innovative tactics, a willingness to cross borders, and a relentless pursuit of justice, no matter how deeply entrenched the criminal network. Task forces dedicated to combating Russian organized crime were established, bringing together experts in financial crime, cybercrime, and human trafficking. These specialized units, armed with the latest technology and investigative techniques, focused on disrupting the Russian mafia's financial networks, its smuggling operations, and its grip on vulnerable communities. Witness protection programs were strengthened, offering safe haven to those brave enough to testify against the Russian mafia. International cooperation became paramount, with German authorities working closely with their counterparts in Russia, the Baltic states, and Eastern Europe to share intelligence, coordinate operations, and dismantle the organization's transnational network. The fight against the Russian mafia was not without its setbacks. Witnesses were intimidated, evidence vanished, and corrupt officials obstructed justice. Yet, the German authorities remained steadfast in their pursuit, recognizing that the rule of law, the safety of its citizens, and the integrity of its institutions were at stake. Germany, despite its economic prowess and societal order, bears the scars of the underworld's touch. The battles fought against organized crime, while yielding significant victories, have left an indelible mark on the nation's psyche. The idyllic image of a safe and secure society has been shattered, replaced by the unsettling awareness of the criminal networks operating beneath the surface. The human cost of these battles is etched in the faces of victims. The young woman forever haunted by her ordeal in forced prostitution, the family torn apart by drug addiction, the honest businessman driven to ruin by extortion. These stories, often untold and unheard, serve as a stark reminder of the true cost of organized crime. The economic impact is no less significant. Billions of euros siphoned out of legitimate businesses and funneled into the pockets of criminals represent lost opportunities, stifled growth, and a drain on the nation's resources. The fight against organized crime, while crucial, comes at a price, requiring significant investments in law enforcement, social services, and economic reform. Yet, amidst the scars, a spirit of resilience persists. The German people, accustomed to overcoming adversity, have not been cowed by the threat of organized crime. They demand accountability, transparency, and a steadfast commitment from their leaders to combat this scourge. The face of law enforcement in Germany has been irrevocably changed by the fight against organized crime. The days of tackling petty theft and local disturbances are long gone. Today's officers operate in a complex and interconnected world, facing adversaries who utilize globalization, technology, and ruthless tactics to their advantage. A new breed of hunter has emerged, one equipped with the skills and resources to combat transnational criminal networks. Specialized units trained in financial crime, cybercrime, and human trafficking work tirelessly to dismantle these organizations from within, following the money trail, infiltrating their ranks, and bringing them to justice. International cooperation has become the cornerstone of this new era of law enforcement. Information sharing, joint operations, and extradition treaties are essential tools in the fight against organizations that operate across borders, exploiting legal loopholes and jurisdictional complexities. The battle against organized crime has also spurred innovation in law enforcement. Advanced surveillance techniques, data analysis tools, and cybercrime expertise are now indispensable weapons in the arsenal of those tasked with protecting society from this ever-evolving threat. The fight against organized crime is not a battle with a defined endpoint, but rather an ongoing struggle that requires constant vigilance, adaptation, and a commitment to upholding the rule of law. As long as there is profit to be made in the shadows, there will be those willing to exploit the vulnerable, corrupt the system, and challenge the very fabric of society. New threats are constantly emerging: cybercrime, with its potential to cripple infrastructure and steal vast sums of money; human trafficking, fueled by global inequality and desperation; and the ever-present danger of terrorist organizations seeking to exploit the underworld's networks for their own nefarious purposes. Germany, with its central location in Europe, its economic strength, and its tradition of order, will remain a prime target for organized crime. The country's future depends on its ability to adapt, to anticipate new threats, and to maintain a united front against those who seek to operate outside the law. The battle against organized crime is a battle for the soul of Germany, a battle that requires the courage of its law enforcement officers, the vigilance of its citizens, and the unwavering commitment of its leaders to uphold the principles of justice, fairness, and the rule of law. It is a battle that Germany cannot afford to lose.